Cameron here and the crew for another episode of Fearless Flight Live. Glad you all could make it. We got a little bit of news and a little bit of stuff to talk about. And our focus, of course, as always, is to help you or somebody you know overcome their fear of flying, unless you're just one of those people who like to hang around cool people or us instead, and talk about the aviation industry there. So Dieter's back. Diane is back. Eric is still here, as am I. So we'll go right into it. Let me open up some slides and share our screen. And
I want to just say congratulations to Dawn. Dawn just flew this past week, and I'm hoping that you're going to be on tonight. So I'm looking forward to the chat to hear about your experience.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Don, I talked at length last week, and then we kept in contact as he flew and had a little bit of turbulence. So actually talking to Don is what prompted me for the coaching corner tonight to talk a little bit about how you can 3 steps to move away from your anxiety. So here we are. As we are every week, and a quick reminder, please, if you haven't, join our Facebook group, Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather, and go there and give some tips and take some tips away, whatever you. Tonight is Captain Eric's 65th birthday. Had he been flying and not taken an early out, this would have been yesterday would have officially been his last day. So 1 minute past midnight, he would have no longer been able to fly. And I thought this picture here may look kind of confusing, but it's actually about why we need to honor our old people. So I thought we go into this story. This was a lady. I don't know if it's true or not because I got it on the internet, but it's cute. So I thought I'd tell it. So she goes into the bank and she said, "Hey, I'd like to withdraw $10. And the teller says, kind of miffed, and he had a bunch of people in there. And he says, "Sorry, ma'am, but for withdrawals less than $100, you need to go outside and use the ATM." She asked why, and he said, "Well, when we're busy, those are the rules, and please leave if you don't have anything else to do there. There's a line of customers waiting behind you." So she waited silently for a couple of seconds, and then she handed her card back to the teller, and he said, "Please help me withdraw all the money I have." And so he was pretty much obligated for that. He looked down and it pulled up her account, and she had over $3,000 in the account. So sure enough, he counted out $3,000, handed it to her, at which point she took $10 out of that and kept it, and then gave him the remaining $2,990 back and said, "Would you please deposit this back into my account?" So be nice to old people. And we can say that Eric is not that old and a much better attitude. So anyway, so happy birthday, Eric. And he and I were talking about, and just a couple of minutes, so you officially you had to turn in your ID and all that, just quickly, Eric, what was that like for you today after flying for how many years have you been flying?
32 and a half at the airline.
Okay.
So I walked down the chief pilot's office, and I did get to go out on my own terms. It was much more fortunate than yours of kind of hitting a brick wall at 500 miles per hour and I consider you and a lot of my betters have been cheated by that age 60 thing. I got 5
Let me just expound. And so what Eric's talking about is when I turned 60, the max age was still 60, and 6 months and 13 days later, as if I were counting, they changed the rule to 65, and Eric was fortunate enough to fall into 65.
And even if Ron had been 60 in a day, they wouldn't have said, "Oh, that's okay, you're still legal and current, keep going." They just said, "Nope, you're on one side of the line or the other." So I got this 5 years I wouldn't have been been able to take advantage of, and I got this leave when I really, really needed it. So it was okay, but I handed him my ID. And I was aware that all the people that we'd built relationships with administratively were gone, promoted, or somewhere else. And everybody in the chief pilot's office appeared to be 12 years old. I would not have served them a drink without 9 forms of ID and a letter from their mommies, but they were very sweet. And I gave them the ID, and I told the little receptionist, I said, when the ID was issued, this terminal wasn't even built. And if you were sitting here at your desk, you'd be outside, it'd be loud and dirty. And her hands flew to her mouth and it gasped to think of how long ago that must have been. And then I walked up and walked out, and like you did, took a look back at security and thought, well, for 32 and a half years, we went to the secret hole and we went in there. And now, as I have on my moniker, we're just chopped liver with the rest of the unwashed masses. We'll have to get in the normal way. But I was very lucky and had a very good run. But today, even when I was on leave, I was still attached to the company, sort of, even though I was not really their top producer or producing anything. But now I'm just completely severed. And in just 1 minute on the clock, 1 hour and 1 minute before midnight, when it goes past midnight, you go electronically from one side to the other, member to non-member. So it is kind of a weird thing.
Well, I'm glad to have known you as a crew member, as a fellow captain pilot, and I'm glad you joined us, Eric. So thanks and happy birthday.
Me too. Thank you.
So tonight, if you got a question, or we'd love to hear it, we're going to do some questions at the end if there are any that come up, and leave a comment there, whether you're listening to us live or watching the replay. I have a poll question coming up. Just a quick reminder, the Fearless Flight for Lunch Bunch, also known as Fearless Flight Club, is flying on January 15th. Wendy Moy over in the Orange County area is putting that together, flying out of Long Beach. We got a quick aviation update, and then, like I said, we'll have some time for some questions there. Poll question: has Omicron, the latest and greatest COVID threat, caused you to rethink your travel plans? Yes or no? We'd love to hear what you think about that. Omicron is alive and well, and the bad news is it's much more infectious. The good news is it doesn't seem to be as serious a threat unless you haven't been vaccinated. So anyway, yes or no, if you think about that and it's caused you to make your travel plans. Okay, I went over and just checked the site. This is the flight that Wendy Moy is going to head up on January 15th, going from Long Beach over here to Phoenix and then back to Long Beach on Southwest Airlines. And I just checked, the fares are $5 more than they were last week coming over here to Phoenix from Long Beach, and $10 more back. So still within reach there, but if you wait too much longer, if you have any desire to do that, you want to go down and go online and get your ticket, because it'll start climbing rapidly. A quick tip here, I think Dieter mentioned Don, his participation last week. He's usually on here. He may be on tonight. I didn't have a chance to talk to him about that. But one of the things he mentioned was the turbulence on his way back. And you all know that really the whole thing about being afraid to fly, it's an anxiety disorder. And it's really an attention disorder, because what happens is the biology of your body hijacks your attention, and once it's got your attention, it does what it wants with it. And we're more human doings than human beings. So once we have something that we become afflicted with, we're spring-loaded to be doing something or think we should be doing something. And that's why anxiety is so problematic for most of you, because you can't sit there, you can't just be quiet and just let the feelings pass. So I was reading I mentioned this book before, Unwinding from Your Anxiety by Judd Brewer, and I saw an article by him, and he mentioned 3 tips. So I thought I'd cover those tonight. And they are becoming aware of your habit loops, focusing on the negative, and finding a bigger, better option. So becoming aware, that's the first thing we talk about. And you all know that it's almost, it sounds like an oxymoron when I tell you to not focus on your, or not get caught up in your attention. But the first step is really to be mindful. And that means putting your attention where your attention is. Simply noticing that you're in distress, or if you're thinking about something, or if you're just having body sensations, your tummy's upset or whatever, just move your awareness to that. And again, that kind of sounds like it is an oxymoronish thing to do, because we tell you, you know, you don't want to get caught up in that. But the best way to get past something is to first focus on it and do that, because our thoughts become habitual. So you pay attention to where your attention is, and you focus on the negative rather than ignore it. And your brain chooses which habit to adopt based on how rewarding your behavior is. And even though it might not be something that you think positive about, being anxious and being worrisome is a behavior that's more rewarding because it feels like you're doing something. And that's true even if your PFC, your prefrontal cortex, knows that it isn't helpful. That's why you choose cake or pie over broccoli as far as for a diet choice. And this again is where mindfulness against proves helpful, because finding in the last line is finding a bigger, better option. And mindfulness is woven all through these. So the most important thing is to first put your attention on where your attention is, and then when you're in the goal of finding a bigger, better option, replace that not so rewarding habit with a bigger, better reward. So you've got to, again, what I say, like, and I mentioned this in the flight harmonizer as well, lean into your anxiety. Feel the feelings; they will go away, and the more you can do that and be comfortable with yourself and pay attention to where your attention is, the quicker you're going to find relief when you start flying or when you get back to flying. And using mindfulness, the first thing, as I said, is to put your attention where your attention is, and then move it to where you want it to be. And curiosity plays a big role in mindfulness. This is another thing that the people who are the most curious, and I see that with our guest from a couple of weeks ago, Sonia Reyes, who just flew up to Chicago to visit with her daughter while she was having her first grandbaby, and other people that I've flown with recently. What they notice is when they use their curiosity and really get into it, find out what bothers them, find out what their triggers are, and then really go after them with a vengeance, they get better in a much quicker focus. So when you're mindful, you know, one of the things you can do is first feel your body and then lean into the science. And so those are the 3 tips, again, from a guy named Judd Brewer, and he wrote a book called Unwinding from Anxiety. So quick mention of our new Clear for Takeoff 201-301 class series is going on the road. We mentioned that before. We've picked dates. These are still a little bit tentative, but about 95% certain that what we're going to do is we're going to do this. The way this class works now is we do an online webinar. We have 4 successive Thursday nights, with each one with a Zoom webinar live, hour and a half, that you'll attend. And then following that, we will have a Clear for Takeoff 301, which is our flight, our graduation flight. And the difference now is not only are we going to have them in Phoenix and the LA area, but we're going to move out into other areas of the country. And our intention is to go to Boston for this first big departure. So module 1 is going to begin on February 10th. These are the 4 modules that we talk about. We talk about the psychology of the fear of flying, the basics of flight, how airplanes work, coping tools and strategies, what you can do to develop defense postures against all the problems and the issues with fear of flying. And then we do our last one is a chair fly, where we put everything together there. Again, there's the intended modules. We're working on the launch pages right now. We hope to get those done in, I'm going to say, a couple of weeks. It'd be nice if we could do it before then, but just stick with us here and we'll get the word out to you. The modules will be 6:30 Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I should have put S in there. It's standard time now, but you get the drift anyway. And as I said, we're going to do Phoenix, Boston, and LA. And I believe I'm going to do it in that order because I've been talking to a couple of people out in Boston. One is the therapist out there who's fed some clients to us. And just looking at the whole picture of what we're going to do. But here's the way it'll go. using this as an example. Phoenix would be on March 5th. The next Saturday, we would travel to Boston and fly a round trip out of the Boston airport. And on the 19th, we'd come back and fly another flight out of LA. We had a few people that didn't fly the last time, and a number of other people who asked me when the next class is. I've already talked to them and kind of got them spring loaded for this there. Same thing, the 301 class, you get in-flight support from the staff here. We do a post-flight debrief, and you get a neat little certificate of completion when you get all done. The tuition, I'm going to stick with this. It's $497, and that does not include airfare. The tuition for non-flying students, we take $100 off of that. So this means that anybody anywhere in the world can take this class. And we've had about a third of the people that didn't fly and 2/3 flying. So it's a nice mix. It's always great. You get the camaraderie from people around the country. And we do breakout room activities where you get some one-on-one time with some other people, which helps to simulate what it's like when we do this live, where you find out that you're not the only one on the planet who has an issue with that. We will be offering an early bird special once we finalize the launch page. And with that, we'll come up with a date there. We'll announce that later, and we'll give an additional $100 off these prices here, the $497 and the $397. If you have a coach or companion that you want to fly with you, we just charge $97, and of course you'd have to get a ticket for them as well. Okay, and do not forget, we still have every month the 101 in-person class at the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. So if you are in Phoenix or will be in Phoenix on the 8th, that's our introductory class, and often Diane and Eric accompany me with that. The whole class we do on an airplane, which is exciting, especially for those people who suffer from claustrophobia or who haven't ever flown before. You get to go through security, you get the whole enchilada, and like I said, we spend the entire time on the airplane. Now, just because you can't make it to the 101 in-person class doesn't mean that you can't participate in a 101. And that is, you use this same link down here as a portal, and you can register for the online class that I have the next morning. So January 8th in the evening will be the live class in Phoenix. The next morning, January 9th, I do an online webinar for those people who could not make it to Phoenix. So, and anybody can attend those. Doesn't matter how many times you've been before. Okay. First item in the aviation news update, Channel 15 has been threatening to do a story on Fearless Flight for about the last, about 4 months now. And which is what is typical, is then all of a sudden they say, okay, can you do it this weekend? So they're going to run a story on Fearless Flight, and with a couple of people that I've worked with this Friday night. I do not know what time it is yet, but it's December 31st. So you can go online, probably live at ABC News 15 .com, I believe, is their website, and we'll look that up and put that in the notes down there. So watch it live or watch the replay. They'll probably put it up online afterwards, or we'll try to tape it. So another item in the news is CDC. You may have seen yesterday they came out with a notice. They said they shortened the isolation for some COVID infections. They've cut the isolation time from 10 days to 5 days now, and you're probably as much up on everything as much as I am, as far as the other things going on around COVID. So we thought we'd just touch on a few of the delays and cancellations. Last week I did the show from the cruise ship I was on, and it was interesting to see how they did it. I was debating, whether I should go or not go, and I decided to go primarily because what I found out was you had to have your vaccination card to board the ship. In addition to that, they put an antigen test out. So we got down there, and there's about 4 ships leaving out of New Orleans, and there were literally thousands of people there waiting to go through. It was fairly organized, and you go through they have a convention center right across from the port there, and you go through that, and you show them your cards, and then you get in there, and they did the swab for the antigen test. They did not draw blood. And then you sat there for about 15 minutes at this big board with just all these numbers that you were assigned a number. And as soon as you saw your number up there, then you got up and you went out and boarded the ship. So they didn't let anybody on who didn't test negative or no, I guess positive for the antigens. You want to have antigens and stuff. So that's the way they handle it. And I was surprised that the cruise ship itself held about 4,000 people, and they had about 2,100 people or so. So it was nice. Didn't have to wait in lines everywhere, and people pretty much honored the distances, and people, when they were in crowds and stuff, people pretty much wore their masks for the most part. There were some people, and the kids, teenagers and stuff, they weren't all that big on it and all that. But anyway, and I thought of all of you because I was I did the ropes course, and turns out to be the highest point on the ship. So you get up there, and I've done stuff like that when I was a lot younger, and I'm standing up on top of it, 200 feet above the water with you got the harness and everything on there. But let me tell you what these old legs felt like when you're stepping up there and stepping out over nothing. And there happened to be a lady right down below me, and she was with her family or whatever. And I got down there, and it turns out she was terrified of getting up on the ropes course. And they came up in the subject about how she got there and all that. And she said, "Oh no, I don't fly. I don't go anywhere on an airplane." So we'll have to look for her. I gave her my card, and we'll see if she jumps on the show sometime out there. But so kind of an interesting experience there. And I recommend any of you, if you can find a ropes course somewhere, it's a great way to get your feet wet in terms of anxiety. Delays and cancellations. Diane, you had some articles on that, or you had some news on that. How many are there out there?
In fact, I just pulled up some details coming from the website or the site called Flight Aware. I know a lot of you may go on there to check out your own flights or whatnot. So this is for today. The total delays, and this is worldwide, were over 13,000 flights. The total delays within, into, or out of the US today, 6,574. The total cancellations worldwide were over 3,000. And the total cancellations within, into, or out of the United States today, 1,249.
Ouch.
That's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people. And again, personally, this is, yeah. So we went on the Friday before the Saturday before the Sunday we departed. We flew from Phoenix to Houston to New Orleans. Got to Houston, stopped, got some gas, switched airplanes, took off. Hour and 15 minutes, a little bit longer because there's a big, I was going to say big ass thunderstorm. I won't say that. A line of thunderstorms, a huge cold front went through. And just as we were arriving in the New Orleans area, so was the line of thunderstorms. So we started our descent and all that. You can hear the engines go down. And when you got down there, you could tell that you're getting ready for approach. And all of a sudden they spool up and we took off. And I said, well, one of two things. We're either going to an alternate or we're going into holding. And about 5 minutes later, the captain came on and said, guess what, folks? No canned land at New Orleans. They closed the airport briefly. So we had to go all the way back to Phoenix. That was the closest place that they had for a good alternate. Landed, got some fuel. So 4.5 hours later, we finally got to New Orleans. And I just I wish the captain was here because he did a really, really good job. The crew in general did that. And I'm looking around just to see who's going crazy with anxiety, stuff like that. And they really did a good job. We landed. And you never know when you land to get fuel. You never know where you're going to be at in the order of that. It took us an hour to get gas because there were other airplanes in the same status there. But the captain came on and made a couple of PAs in front of the crowd, which I highly recommend to pilots when they do that if they have an irregularity. And it just really had a calming nature. Everybody was happy. Nobody got upset. No issues with masks or anything like that. We took off and we ended up at that. Came back on Sunday to go back to Houston and then on the Phoenix and get there. Couldn't get my boarding boarding pass to work to get my tag for my bag. And, you know, when I tried all of them, go through it, and finally a gal comes up there, and of course they give you the, you know, are you dumber than dirt? What's the problem there? And you know, you follow the instructions. Sure enough, she said, we have to go up to the counter. What they had done was the system blocks you out, because the flight that we were supposed to catch in New Orleans going to Houston was so late that we were -7 for our connection in Houston. So she said, you can't go on that flight. So she found a booking for us, which turned out to be our advantage, because we ended up going through San Diego, even though we had to fly about 50% further. We ended up getting in about 4 hours earlier that night. So those delays and cancellations are real, and you can't predict them. It doesn't mean that the airplane you're on is going to be the one that causes the problem, and maybe a connecting flight. So, yeah, you know, and you can't tell till you get there. So
you can look, sometimes you can look on flight stats. There are different websites to look for specific airports. So if you're planning on going somewhere, or you are already have a reservation, I just went on, for example, the storm system that has just battered the West Coast from Seattle all the way down through to California, and into the Rockies. Almost every single flight in and out of Aspen has been either canceled or diverted. About half of them going into or out of Vail, which is Eagle, have also been either canceled, diverted, or delayed. So if you or anyone you know is flying to a certain market, you can go on and see what the record supposedly is for that particular airport for that day, and see what the likelihood of you're making it, where that stands. So there are things you can do proactively, and it's winter, you know, it's just winter. There are storms, and on top of COVID, to make sure that you have a plan A, a plan B, plan C, plan D, just to have a lot of, and bring books and food, because you may find yourself in an airport for a while. So
yeah, we're all the way down to 43, and it's raining outside. I got my snow shovel out just in case. So anyway, yeah. Thanks, Diane. Dieter, any questions or comments or anything? You know, a little.
Yeah, we got a very lively chat today. So first of all, I just Don, thanks so much for your insights. Like, I really appreciate Don has really you know, done the work, and that's the exciting part, that it gives you insight into your own nature, you could say, but it also then gives you a way of how to be with that. And so for anybody who is interested, I won't read all of his comments, but I just want to say thank you, Don, because I know that that's really helping everybody else that's reading those comments. And so that's really, really cool. The next thing is Jim Duke neither eats broccoli nor dessert, likes broccoli, nor does he eat desserts. But also, I wanted to just say, one of the things that you were saying earlier on about how to prepare yourself, like mentally, emotionally, how you get in, like that attitude. It's okay to feel the discomfort. It's okay to feel that surge in the body. It's, you know, and I think Dawn really spoke to that as well. There were a couple of questions. One of them, I think it was Tracy. Tracy was asking, she wants to deal, what's the real deal with those regional jets? Like, what's really the difference between regional jets and the regular airplane? So
regional jets and real jets. Eric.
Yes, exactly. So maybe we're gonna let Eric start with that, and then maybe Diane, you can come in after that as well.
So Tracy, that's a little bit of a misnomer. When they say regional, they're referring to either the physical size of the airline or the region they cover. But as Diane will say in a minute, her airline has an immense number of aircraft and covers very widespread routes. Also, the pilots train and the flight attendants just like the exact same training profiles as the airline pilots do, same emergency procedures, same approach procedures, that kind of thing. And often are, because they're flying into airports not served by mainline aircraft, fly more challenging approaches in and out of there, and their ability is quite good. They train to the same standards. They are generally younger guys and gals because they, if for stability or just income and earning potential, will often leave and go to a major carrier, but many do not. They're comfortable in the job there, and they're well compensated, and they stay. And the aircraft themselves often are newer than mainline aircraft. The companies turn them over faster, and they have lots of fancy new equipment, very, very high-tech stuff. I would be very interested in seeing the difference between accident and incident statistics between regional carriers and mainlines, and I suspect that answer is not much, if any.
Minuscule. It's really minuscule.
It's very
Yeah.
small. Yeah.
To add on to that, the regional jets, if you were out here 20 years ago, you'd see all of them were little airplanes with propellers on them. Now they pretty much all got jets. So, so nobody, people used to go out where you board from the outside. I used to fly out of Denver there when we didn't have jetwares everywhere. So people come out, and we had 3 airplanes, a jet, a propeller-driven airplane, and a little bitty bug smasher type de Havilland, and they, of course, all automatically go towards the jet, and you'd say no, and then they go towards the middle-sized airplane, and say no, and then you see all the energy and life go drain from their face because they realize they're going to be on the little guy there. But they provide a service, and basically they get you to the smaller markets and it's a marketing thing. If you can't support a lot of people, the airlines are gonna serve those with RJs. And to show you how important it is, or the marketplace, Airbus is coming out. They're going to be in service here in January, I believe, or February for sure, because I saw it on Delta thing. Airbus is coming out with what's it called, the 220?
220, yeah.
Nice looking airplane,
fancy,
and it's going to be in the regional jet class. It's going to give Embraer and who's the other?
Canada Regional Jet.
Yeah.
Canadair.
Yep.
We have, and the other thing with regard to that terminology of regional airplane, in the way we look at it, you've got the mainline, there's low cost carriers, ultra low cost carriers, and the regionals. And as Eric said, my airline is the largest regional airline in the United States. We partner with 4 different mainline airlines, and we fly all across the United States. We have more planes than several larger airlines. We have more aircraft than, I think, JetBlue. We have more aircraft than a lot of big mainline, quote unquote, airlines. We fly into Canada, and we also fly into Mexico. So we fly all around the United States. The regionals, in that we have a smaller aircraft. We have as Ron said, we have the CRJs, which are either 50 or 65, 70 passenger aircraft, which is 2 and 2 on the aisle, or we have Embraers. We fly the Embraer 175. And so we have the smaller airplane, and we do fly into the smaller markets, that's true, but we also fly into LA, we fly into Houston, San Antonio, Newark, we fly into SeaTac, we fly into lots and lots and lots of very, very, very big airports. And we also fly into the tiny ones. So the only difference really that we see is our overhead bins are smaller, and that's about it. So, and most of our flights are a little bit shorter. So the longest one I've ever worked is about 2.5 hours long. But that's about it. As the guy said, our training is the same, and our safety training is the same. So everybody should.
Training is the same, maintenance is the same, certification of the airplane is the same.
Yeah,
There's
all the
no
same.
difference between a
No
little
difference.
airplane and a bigger plane. If you can buy a ticket on it, it's governed under
It's
Part
gonna be safe.
121,
Yeah, we're
and
all
you gotta meet all the rules.
Yeah.
And so that's it in a nutshell. Anything else, Dieter?
No, that's about it. There was a suggestion of, what what you can do to kind of familiarize yourself and follow other like pilots on Instagram or Facebook. So just to, you know, to kind of expose yourself to that as much as possible, to reduce the anxiety there. And I'm also, last thing, oh, and Jim had to cancel his cruise. So it did, Omicron definitely did impact his plans. And a couple of others said that they're concerned, but they didn't change their flights or travel plans because of it. So
and the cruise ship that we actually took the week before turned around and went back to port because they had 10 people come out with test positive for COVID on the ship. And that's why they went to the antigen testing. So we had no irregularities on that. So anyway, so other things you can do, free 15-minute coaching session. Get on it. If you haven't done it, give me a call. Set it up and get yourself started. Don't do nothing. Do something. The more you do, the more you stay in it and stay in the hunt, the more likely it is you're going to overcome your fear of flying. So anyway, thanks to the group again. Thanks, Diane. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Dieter. And welcome back. Happy birthday to you,
Happy
Dieter.
birthday.
Both these guys, I always thought, you really get screwed if you get a birthday in December, because how do you get anybody to prove that the present that you got was for your birthday and not for, not something that you should have got anyway from Santa Claus, So anyway, all right. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again next week for Fearless Flight Live. Have a great week and check yourself in for a 50-minute coaching session. Adios.
You guys, good
Bye.
night.
good night, everybody.